all. So remember about 10 months ago, I think it was, PregerU made a video about how atheism caused Nazism and communism. Anyways, the entire atheist YouTube community went nuts. Literally everyone was making response videos. Professor Stick, Holy Kool-Aid, Logic, I think even the Amazing Atheist stopped cringing over feminist BuzzFeed listings and actually made a video relating to atheism. Who would have thunk it? I probably would have made a video about it if I was around back then. Anyways, one of PregerU's videos on the 10 Commandments also uses the same argument about how, without God, morality is just like your opinion, man. So I figured, I'll respond to it. Here it is.
No document in world history so changed the world for the better as did the 10 Commandments.
I don't know. That's just like your opinion, man. But in all seriousness, I will agree that the 10 Commandments are an important part of Western civilization. The formalization of a moral code is certainly important. And it happened so far back in history that removing it from the timeline would completely change what the present is today. But what I want to know is, why do we need the 10 Commandments today, in the here and now? I mean, sure, it had a few good things in it, but if you count it out, it had 6 incredibly stupid things, 3 morally ambiguous things, and 1 definitively horrible thing. So, in light of that, why use it today over humanity's current moral code?
Western civilization, the civilization that developed universal human rights, created women's equality, ended slavery, created parliamentary democracy, among other unique achievements, would not have developed without them.
Sure, the societies that fixed those problems wouldn't have existed without the 10 Commandments, but you can't credit that to the 10 Commandments. The Commandments say nothing about women's rights, democracy, and slavery. In fact, the same holy book that contains your precious commandments is against women's rights and is pro-slavery. Oh, but that was the Old Testament, they'll say. And sure, so was the 10 Commandments. It was also in the Old Testament. Anyways, I'm not trying to blame the Bible for these problems. I get the feeling that people would have come up with other stupid excuses for their barbaric tendencies. However, one cannot deny that the Bible was used to justify those barbaric tendencies. And if you do deny that, well, you're just a very silly person.
As you will see when each of the 10 Commandments is explained, these commandments are as relevant today as when they were given over 3,000 years ago. In fact, they're so relevant that the 10 Commandments are all that is necessary to make a good world, a world free of tyranny and cruelty.
So, 10 laws to fix the world. These are the only laws that would be in place in your hypothetical scenario, I assume, because any other laws, they'd just be superfluous. So according to these laws, rape and slavery are perfectly fine. Also, there's nothing in the 10 Commandments that would discourage tyranny. And I don't see anything in there about minimum wage, so we're guaranteed to get some worker exploitation. Also, the first, second, and third commandments prohibit freedom of speech and freedom of religion. You know, this is starting to sound a lot like a fascist regime.
Imagine for a moment a world in which there was no murder or theft. In such a world, there would be no need for armies, or police, or weapons. Men and women and children could walk anywhere, at any time of day or night, without any fear of being killed or robbed.
Yeah, what about fear of rape, or kidnapping, or assault? These are not prohibited by the 10 Commandments.
Imagine further a world in which no one coveted what belonged to their neighbor.
This is something that confuses me about PregerU. PregerU is extremely conservative. They're extremely pro-capitalist. Capitalism is entirely built on coveting. You see that guy's ox right there? I wish I had it. Maybe if I work hard enough, I can buy it from him. Not to mention, coveting also brings us closer to equality, if you think about it. I mean, what were those exploited Victorian workers thinking while they were sat there in their workhouse? Right now, you see that bloke there we've been working for? He gets all the monies from our work and lives in a posh house and eats steak, while we's here sitting here like rats, living here in this here workhouse. Was that Australian or British? I can't tell. You see, if those exploited Victorian workers had just not coveted their boss, we would have just been like them. Just living our lives in substandard conditions, content to die of black lung at age 35. It's because of coveting that we get to choose the careers we want, and that we get a living wage.
A world in which children honored their mother and father and the family unit thrived.
No, not all parents deserve respect. If a parent is beating their kid, the kid shouldn't respect them for it. Also, this is something that I just kind of thought up. Isn't having to act like you respect your parents no matter what you actually think about them, doesn't that kind of border on breaking the 9th commandment? I mean, it's not exactly lying, but it's at least a very little teeny bit dishonest.
A world in which people obeyed the injunction not to lie. The recipe for a good world is all there in these 10 sublime commandments. But there is a catch. The 10 commandments are predicated on the belief that they were given by an authority higher than any man, any king, or any government. That's why the sentence preceding the 10 commandments asserts the following. God spoke all these words.
Yeah, it asserts that God said the thing. But can you prove to me that God said the thing? And even if God did say the thing, that doesn't make it relevant to today's modern societies.
You see, if the 10 commandments, as great as they are, were given by any human authority, then any person could say, who is this man Moses? Who is this king or queen? Who is this government to tell me how I should behave?
Well, I don't think much would happen if some jackass wandered off a hill with some rocks with words on them. But if the rocks with words on them were being given by some king or government, most people would obey them because it is extremely stupid to defy the people who can have you incarcerated or beheaded. Now look, maybe this whole God angle was necessary when, there were practically no ways of catching criminals, but in an age of security cameras, DNA testing, and NSA agents monitoring your every online move, hello NSA agents, in that kind of age, whoever didn't want to obey the law would probably obey it out of fear of getting caught. That would keep at least most people who are complete and total psychopaths in check, and even if people did break the law, we have the means to catch and punish them.
Okay, so why is God indispensable to the 10 commandments? Because, to put it as directly as possible, if it isn't God who declares murder wrong, murder isn't wrong.
No, it's wrong because it causes unnecessary harm to a sentient being who does not want to be harmed. We can judge how wrong an action is based on how much it helps or hurts people. But you might ask, well, how do you know it's right to help people? Well, you see, there's something called the Golden Rule. In fact, I think there's a version of it in your holy book. It's one of your holy book's best bits of moral advice. Treat others how they want to be treated.
Yes, this strikes many people today as incomprehensible, even absurd. Many of you are thinking, is this guy saying you can't be a good person if you don't believe in God? Let me respond as clearly as possible. I am not saying that. Of course there are good people who don't believe in God, just as there are bad people who do. And many of you are also thinking, I believe murder is wrong. I don't need God to tell me.
Wow, it's like this pre-recorded video is reading my mind. Or at least the people who wrote it had some general idea about how reasonable people would react to a statement like that. Anyways, get on to the argument about how, without God, morality is just like your opinion, man.
Now, that response is only half true. I have no doubt that if you're an atheist and you say that you believe murder is wrong, you believe murder is wrong. But forgive me, you do need God to tell you. We all need God to tell us. You see, even if you figured out murder is wrong on your own, without God and the 10 Commandments, how do you know it's wrong? Not believe it's wrong, I mean know it's wrong.
Simple. I like being treated the way I like being treated. I do not like being mistreated. Murder is mistreatment because it causes unnecessary harm. Because people are somewhat like me, I will assume that they also do not like being mistreated. so I will not mistreat them until specified otherwise.
The fact is, you can't. Because without God, right and wrong are just personal beliefs, personal opinions.
And nothing changes with a God. It's just that God's opinion. Like you said, murder isn't wrong unless God says it's wrong. But if we actually think about how our actions affect other people instead of obeying grand dictates from on high, we might actually figure out what's good for humanity instead of just blindly following a list of rules.
I think shoplifting is okay, you don't.
Well, you see, that's the complicated part. Let's say there are two people shoplifting. The first guy's name is Larry. Larry is stealing food so he can feed his starving family. Is Larry wrong to do that? Now there's a second guy. His name is Terry. Terry is the edgiest of edgy teens. He's stealing because he thinks it will get his parents' attention. Now, most people would agree that it was wrong for Terry to steal, but I don't think everyone would agree that it was wrong for Larry to steal.
Unless there is a God, all morality is just opinion and belief. And virtually every atheist philosopher has acknowledged this.
I think there are some people who would disagree with you on that, but okay, let's roll with that. Every atheist philosopher agrees that without God, morality is just your opinion. So what? Atheists aren't a unified group. We don't blindly follow Richard Dawkins. Yes, Richard Dawkins. Richard Dawkins and Neil deGrasse Tyson and Matt Dillahunty or whomever you choose. One atheist could say morality is just your opinion based on society. Another could say that morality could be objectively determined by stargazing.
Another problem with the view that you don't need God to believe that murder is wrong is a lot of people haven't shared your view. And you don't have to go back very far in history to prove this. In the 20th century, millions of people in communist societies and under Nazism killed about 100 million people. And that doesn't count a single soldier killed in war.
Oh yeah, thanks for getting my video demonetized. Sure, just show a swastika without any regard for YouTube's anti-ad bots. Feel free. That's very nice of you. But you see, the Nazis still thought it was wrong to murder people. The thing is, they just didn't see Jews as people. Yeah. In the Soviet Union, they were just enforcing their laws. It just so happened that the punishment for nearly everything in Soviet Russia was the death penalty. Don't see why you should have a problem with that. Last I checked, you guys were pro-death penalty.
So don't get too confident about people's ability to figure out right from wrong without a higher authority.
Actually, those guys were getting their orders from a higher authority. Hitler and Stalin. It wasn't a nationwide breakdown of morality in Soviet Russia and Nazi Germany. A madman came to power and forced his batshit insane laws on everyone. Ever heard the phrase, "I was just following orders"? Now, don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying everyone there was against the grand dictator. Sure, there were people who accepted Stalin and Hitler's ideas. And there were people raised under their regimes that were taught to think that way. However, we do know that there were people in those countries who were just following orders, trying to survive in a world gone mad.
It's all too easy to be swayed by a government or a demagogue or an ideology, or to rationalize that the wrong you're doing isn't really wrong.
That's exactly what I just said. You're proving my point for me.
And even if you do figure out what is right and wrong, God is still necessary. People who know the difference between right and wrong do the wrong thing all the time. You know why? Because they can. They can because they think no one is watching. But if you recognize that God is the source of moral law, you believe that He is always watching.
Now look, maybe this whole God angle was necessary when, there were practically no ways of catching criminals, but in an age of security cameras, DNA testing, and NSA agents monitoring your every online move, hello NSA agents, in that kind of age, whoever didn't want to obey the law would probably obey it out of fear of getting caught. That would keep at least most people who are complete and total psychopaths in check, and even if people did break the law, we have the means to catch and punish them. So again, in a world where we can actually catch criminals, why pretend that if you break the law you're going to burn forever? when our own justice system is a good enough deterrent and a good enough punishment.
So even if you're an atheist, you would want people to live by the moral laws of the Ten Commandments.
No, I'm very anti-murder, but there are some things in the Ten Commandments I disagree with. I am your God, no other gods, don't misuse God's name, don't work on the Sabbath. Those trample on religious freedom and freedom of speech, two things that I am very much in favor of.
In 3,000 years, no one has ever come up with a better system than the God-based Ten Commandments for making a better world, and no one ever will.
Now in my series of videos, I'm going to go through your series of videos and point out problems with your perfect moral code. I've been the Disappointed Optimist, and you will see me next time, subscribers. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe, and leave a suggestion on what you want me to do next, because I honestly don't know what to do after this guy, or in between videos of this guy. I need suggestions is what I'm saying. You will see me next time! Away!